Sometimes it feels like Donald Trump's cabinet officials are in constant competition to see who can be the worst at their job. And of course, RFK Jr. this week had his time to shine with a conspiracy-filled, screaming meltdown in the Senate that ignored one simple rule of working for Donald Trump. You can be as crazy and ineffective as possible, but you have to stay loyal to the dear leader. RFK Jr. didn't do that, and now Trump is stabbing him in the back with not just a shock announcement, but a potential move that could blow up this whole administration, and we're going to get into it. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into what Trump had to say about RFK Jr. after this awful hearing, I want to start with someone who's so perfectly called out the damage he's doing to our country right now, and that's Jack Cocchiarella right here.
This role is so unbelievably out of his league, it's hard to comprehend. And you say the media is melting down. The media is Senator Bill Cassidy, Senator John Barroso, Senator John Kennedy, Senator Tom Tillis, all Republicans that voted to confirm him, who are saying we are denying people vaccines. You promised to uphold the highest standards for vaccines and have not done so.
What vaccines has he denied someone?
Oh, right. COVID-19. Exactly.
To who can't get a COVID-19 shot?
Erickson's wife, to begin, and Bill Cassidy used...
Wait a second. You mean you can't walk into your doctor's office and get a COVID-19 shot?
Why don't you ever prepare? Why don't you prepare? Kathy Hochul had to do it.
Is this true?
No, it's not true.
No, it is true,
He reclassified it.
Stop.
He reclassified
Haley,
it.
you now need a prescription, and CVS and Walgreens is denying it to people because of the quote-unquote regulatory environment. You can thumb your nose at it. You are healthy and lucky you.
This is why
but there
even
sick
Senator
people.
Warren, I assume you look up to Senator Warren. She said effectively denied. Effectively.
Well, Bill
Notice
Cassidy
you mean insurance doesn't cover it if you're healthy?
No,
is
that's
that what
not
you're
what I
talking
mean.
about?
I mean that you need a prescription to get it. It is becoming... What?
Okay.
You shouldn't...
If you're healthy, you don't need a COVID vaccine. If you want
You're
one,
not.
pay the
I'm
extra
talking
$100.
about a woman with stage 4 cancer.
They can get it if you have stage 4
Eric
cancer,
Erickson's wife cannot. He wrote about it. He talked about it.
I don't know anything about his wife, but...
First of all, this is on a state-by-state basis, Jessica. This wasn't a blanket.
There are 16 states
I'll give you
where...
this. There has been some confusion. There's been some confusion.
How big of you to admit that, Sandra? Come on.
Okay. Okay. It was on a state-by-state basis.
I am upset about this.
Don't be so upset.
You urged Jesse to do his homework. I did. There are...
The reason that RFK Jr.'s cynical brand of MAGA health conspiracy has been effective for him is that he correctly analyzes the problem with the American healthcare system. It's broken, but of course none of his solutions work. They only seek to break it more. Removing mandates for vaccines likely means that vaccines won't be free anymore. Vaccines won't be accessible anymore. Do you think big pharmaceutical companies will continue to give out something that's not mandated by law for free? Do you think that they're going to let anything but the market decide how much they're going to charge and run up those costs as much as possible? Not only is RFK Jr. making people skeptical of vaccines right now, but he's also making it more difficult for anyone to get them with his idiocy and with these actions. And that's why Bernie Sanders was calling him out for the cost problems that this administration has caused right here.
Beautiful bill. Through 15 million Americans off of health care, substantially raised premiums. It is going to have a terrible impact on nursing homes, community health centers, rural hospitals all over America. Very briefly, it's not really making America healthy again.
It's going to have it's going to be the biggest infusion of federal dollars into rural health care in American history.
Yeah, you know why? Because you're cutting $150 billion for rural hospitals. You're putting $50 billion back. That's not an infusion. That's a loss of $100 billion.
Donald Trump's 2024 campaign was about a lot of things. Affordability was certainly central to it. And while it is true that we are in an affordability crisis, it was never true that Donald Trump was going to be the one to solve it. The man who economists correctly predicted would destroy our economy within a matter of months, yet he's lived up to that promise, and he's continuing to go forward with it. Not only is RFK Jr. contributing to how our economy is being broken, but he is creating these conspiracy-crazed followers who, no matter what changes in our politics over the next decade or even longer, will likely break from the ideology he's already put in their head. about vaccines, which is why it was surprising that Trump said this, even though I guess it probably shouldn't be. Trump breaks with RFK on vaccines. Pure and simple, they work. Trump said he's supportive of vaccines on Friday, breaking with Health Secretary RFK Jr. Kennedy was faced with widespread criticism for his new vaccine mandates and staffing shakeup at the CDC. Trump has a history of changing his tune on vaccines, initially expressing skepticism about them in the early days of Operation Warp Speed, launched in 2020 to fast-track development of a COVID-19 vaccine. He later called the vaccine a medical miracle that could save millions of lives. Recently, Pfizer CEO said that Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize for his role in the development of the COVID-19 vaccine. This will break. Chuck Todd predicts Trump will throw cabinet member overboard. Donald Trump has shown no signs thus far of seriously considering the removal of Secretary of Health and Human Services, RFK Jr., despite months of controversy and despite his increasing attacks on doctors, vaccines, and public health consensus. But veteran analyst Chuck Todd thinks it's just a matter of time before he's gone. You know, the right likes to dunk on Democrats sometimes when they are wrong on the side of an 80-20 issue, right, said Todd, and sometimes some of those criticisms are correct. When it comes to some of these conversations about law and order and culture and stuff like that, this is an 80-20 issue. Vaccines. How do you know it's an 80-20 issue? Because you have John Thune, John Barrasso. There are people who never ever have want to be seen as going against Trump in any way. It was clever the way that both Cassidy and Barrasso, in order to criticize Kennedy, they had to praise the president. And here's the thing, he added, there are people at the White House who have been alarmed by Kennedy. And it's Trump that says, he's afraid of losing the Kennedy constituency. And he's just been letting Kennedy go. At some point, this will break. And I do think he throws Kennedy overboard. But, he loves his trophy. And for him, the trophy is, I got a Kennedy, right? That, to me, is what was so interesting about that Senate hearing, is that the Republican senators who are criticizing RFK Jr. understood, again, the fundamental and most important thing that you have to do is praise Donald Trump if you are a Republican. That has to be central in every activity, every action, every thought, every bit of messaging. Something has to include a little bit of praise for the dear leader. And so because they were making that contrast, that RFK Jr. was on the other side of Donald Trump, it makes sense why this would be creating a wedge right now. We know all Donald Trump has talked about recently is winning the Nobel Peace Prize. And if he thinks his work on Operation Warp Speed, which I don't really know what he did besides be president at the time, helps him get to that goal, he is sure as hell not going to have anyone in his administration criticizing those efforts. Now, RFK Jr. tried to toe the line, saying that Operation Warp Speed was successful, but that doesn't really work as well when also at the same time you're saying COVID vaccines cause more problems than the actual virus itself. So yeah, it seems like there is becoming, or we are seeing, a bit of a break between Trump and RFK. And why? Because of the loyalty factor. That's always what it is. It is loyalty. It's not that costs are rising, because Donald Trump is happy for costs to rise because of any member of his cabinet. And we also just saw that with the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, and Pete Buttigieg called it all out right here.
Secretary of Transportation announced that the Department of Transportation is going to abandon that proposed plan. Pete Buttigieg was, of course, Biden's Secretary of Transportation, and he joins us now. Secretary Buttigieg, I see you there at the gate at an airport. Tell us about these proposed rules and what consumers can expect now that the Trump administration is abandoning them.
So the idea of this proposed rule was to make sure that you could get compensation for your time if you are in one of these extreme delay situations or if your flight gets canceled. This is the norm in a lot of countries, Europe, UK, Canada. Passengers have enjoyed these rights for years, not so much in the United States. And so during the time that I was secretary, we launched a process to get these rules developed. It looks like under President Trump and Secretary Duffy, they are canceling that process. So passengers will not have that protection. And they're also indicating that they might be rolling back other protections, other rules that we had finalized, rights that you and I have right now as a passenger that may be at risk, may be rolled back based on some of the preliminary filings we've seen from this administration.
Transportation Department statement to CNN says that the department will, quote, implement all aviation consumer protection requirements mandated by Congress, unquote. Is that enough?
Yeah, let me translate that. In plain English, what that means is they will not do anything to protect passengers unless Congress makes them. We did everything we could within the authorities that Congress provided, and that meant going above and beyond the minimum, using the legal authority the department had to do things like make sure that you did get your money back automatically, to set strict rules on how that would work, to hold airlines accountable on things like their promises around seating you with your family, transparency around fees, so many other things that I think are really important. Look, the reason we did this was because so many passengers were having such a frustrating experience with the way they were being treated by airlines. And I think that it's very important for a department to stand up for passengers. But I got to tell you, in the Trump administration, we're seeing decision after decision that tilts in favor of corporations and against consumers. With credit cards, they've allowed banks to increase junk fees and late fees. With the FTC, you've seen this conservative push that means that now it's easier for companies to trap you in a subscription that you don't want. And, I always wondered if that was going to, or when that was going to happen on the airline side. Now it looks like it's underway with this news. And again, some signals from the Trump administration that they might be clawing back more passenger protections that, as of today, we already enjoy.
I know you're at a real airport because I hear a crying baby behind you. That's how I know it's legitimate. You're at the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport right now. We've seen a lot of travel disruption this year because of outmoded equipment in air traffic control towers. The Trump administration routinely blames the Biden administration and you for not doing anything. Were you aware of, for example, the air traffic control problems at Newark Airport?
Yeah, of course. That's why we did things like launching the contract to modernize the technology. Now, when the Trump administration came in, they stopped it or paused it to see if they could give it to Elon Musk. As I understand, that contract is now back up and running. But look, this is one area where I support the things that the secretary says he wants to do. There are definitely things that we saw needed to be done when we inherited the air traffic control system that we inherited from the first Trump administration. We moved the ball as far as we could. I'd like to think this is a bipartisan cause where so many of us, including obviously me at the moment changing planes, are members of the traveling public who depend on a safe, strong air traffic control system.
This was a campaign that Donald Trump ran in 2024 saying he would lower your costs, he would make your life easier. And they have undone every action of the Biden administration that actually accomplished that. Donald Trump doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about your costs. He doesn't care about your life. And we have to make that clear every single day. We're certainly going to on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.